Hello and welcome to another episode of What Gets Captured on Film. My name is Dylan Paulson and I am your host. If you are new here, this is a show about movies and movie news and everything we love about movies. Each week we will get into what we've been watching this week, we as in me, and then some of the news that happened over the previous week. This week we'll be covering the week of October 20th through October 26th as it relates to the news. Again, my name is Dylan Paulson, and this is What Gets Captured on Film. So let's just get into a few non-essential news stories that don't necessarily need a story written about them, but also don't really fit in with the write-up at the end of the show, the little wrap-up. So first of all, the review embargo, I guess, lifted, and there are reviews coming out for Marvel's Eternals, directed by Chloe Zhao. I'm finding this movie really interesting because Chloe Zhao obviously won Best Director this year at the Oscars for Nomadland, which also won Best Picture. So, but she got the gig for Eternals before that movie had come out. She was doing press for Nomadland as she was talking about, Eternals in that project. So I find it really interesting the path that she took to get to Eternals, so that she might have had a little more leeway in Eternals had Nomadland come out before she signed that deal, or, whatever wound up happening there. I'm not sure if the script was finished before she went on to direct it, whatever. But either way, the reviews came out. It is kind of middling. There are some reviews that praise the direction she took, some reviews that really don't really have a problem with, for lack of better terms, the direction that she took. I'm more interested to see what the audience thinks of it because she's a really interesting director. I loved Nomadland, and we haven't really had a Marvel movie make a big splash since Endgame, in my opinion. It seems like Marvel's going down the path of doing these miniseries shows like Falcon and Winter Soldier, whatever else. Doesn't matter. I don't really care that much. But I just thought it was interesting. If you are interested, I'd suggest you go read those reviews. They came out. Again, they're kind of all over the place. It's really interesting to read. Okay, let's move on. Also from this past week, The French Dispatch opened to $1.3 million from its first weekend, which is great, honestly. So I think it set a pandemic era record for most amount of money made per theater, which is not, it's kind of to be expected because The French Dispatch opened to far fewer theaters than another movie that, Dune came out last weekend as well. And that here, I'll go into that one as well. Dune made $40.1 million domestically. And it just opened in the U.S. last weekend, and that that's great for Dune. That's probably exactly what they wanted to see, and it is obviously what they wanted to see because Legendary announced via Twitter earlier today. Actually, I'm recording on Tuesday, that the sequel is greenlit, and they are looking for a release date of October 2023, so about 2 years from this time period right now. So yeah. Ultimately, great week for movies. French Dispatch found its audience clearly, which is great. Dune clearly found its audience, which is great. Happy for both those movies. Yeah. Okay, so that was pretty much all the non-essential news stories. At this part of the show, I'd like to talk about the things that I've been watching. What did I get into over the past week? What nonsense did I find myself in? Well, last night, just on a whim, I needed a movie to watch. I hadn't watched any movies this week. The weekend kind of got away from me, as it sometimes does. And the only movie that I could see, the only movie that was on my list of Halloween movies that I wanted to get through that was interesting to me was Night of the Living Dead from 1968. George A. Romero, the classic. This is like the introduction to zombies as we know them today, Night of the Living Dead. And this is probably the second or third time I've watched it, but it's the first time that I've watched it and paid close enough attention to it. It's one of these things that I talk about on the show sometimes where older movies just are kind of difficult to get through. And it's not for any other reason other than they were just made differently. The whole idea of how we as people ingested media pre-1990s was totally different. You would go into the movie theater, and especially before pre-home movie market, you would go into the movie theater and expect to see that movie once, maybe twice in your whole life. And then you would never see it again. It would disappear, unless your local theater was playing it. Someone got a hold of a film reel and you could screen it, a drive-in theater might show some classics. Like, you would go and see a movie and that would potentially be the only time that you saw that movie in your entire life, which is just a mind-boggling thing to think of. So when you went to see a movie, your eyes were glued to the screen the whole time. And also, we didn't have phones. Attention spans were generally higher. We've been trained. I've had a smartphone almost my whole life since I've had a phone. Technology has been a part of my life. The internet has been a part of my life since I grew up into that era. So we're just raised to have a different type of attention span. And, say what you will about that. I'm not saying anything about, society or people or if it's good or bad, but we just view movies differently now than we did. So Night of the Living Dead, specifically, I love that movie. It's very interesting, very cool. I find parts of it to still be kind of scary. It's kind of frightening today. Not like I'm shaking in my little boots, but I find it, it's pretty scary to watch. And I find that it gets better as it goes on. I think the beginning is good, and then I think it gets really slow when the girl, the girl that the movie opens on, is like shell shocked and she won't talk for like 20 minutes. That part of the movie is incredibly slow to me, in my opinion. And then as more characters start to get introduced and the threat becomes greater, the movie just has this high intensity to it. And I think that's great. And I think that the way in which it was made is really cool. I love that it takes place in a town outside Pittsburgh. It takes place in Butler County, PA. I think is awesome. Super underutilized area of the United States. And a pretty high budget movie for low budget indie movies, especially for the time. And I think I think it's great. I think it's a great movie. It started the career of George A. Romero and started the zombie trend as we know it today. But if you can't get a hold of this movie, I wouldn't suggest you go out of your way to, because again, it can be slow, and it started a lot of trends that moved their way through movies and video games and other media. So when you look at this movie, you might think, oh, it's a little cliche, but it started those trends, so it deserves a little extra credit for being the first one to do it. Is it the best one to do it? In certain senses. It depends what we're talking about. Is it the best zombie movie of all time? To be honest, I don't have the agency to speak on that. I don't watch a lot of zombie movies. I think 28 Weeks Later is great. Or 28 Days Later, I think, is the first one. That one's great. And, there are other bits of media out there, too. Apparently, The Walking Dead's really good. I'm never in my life going to watch The Walking Dead. Never in my life going to watch The Walking Dead. It's one of those things where, like, people throughout my whole life have been like, oh, yeah, you got to watch it. You got to watch it. You got to watch it. It's as soon as one more person tells me to watch it, it just gets farther and farther away from me actually going to watch it. It's just one of those things. Okay. That's enough in the Night of the Living Dead. What else have I been watching? Well, that was the only movie I watched this week, unfortunately. But as is custom on this show, even though it is a movie podcast, I will occasionally talk about shows as they pertain to the conversation. And last night, also, I just started Ted Lasso season 2. I wanted to watch something that was low effort and funny and had a lot of heart, and I know Ted Lasso did in the first season. That first season of that show I really fell in love with. It felt a lot like The Sandlot or other sorts of movies that I watched growing up that had this like camaraderie, this team camaraderie, and really just had a lot of heart. But it felt like it was made by people who grew up watching a lot of that stuff. So the first season's great. The second season, here's what I'll say about it. So far, I'm only 2 or 3 episodes in. The first episode was really poorly written. It was lazy. It was just really lazy. It was really poor writing. It felt like it was written by someone fresh out of film school that didn't know jack shit about writing. And I feel bad for saying that, but it is just really lazy. It lacks all of the heart that the first season had. But the second season, great. The second episode, great. A lot of laughs, a lot of heart. Again, it felt like it was getting back on track. And I forget if I watched the third episode or not, but if I did, then it was kind of along that same track. So I hope that the rest of the season kind of goes down that same path. Other than Ted Lasso, been watching, again, Arrested Development, Ash vs. Evil Dead. Same business, except I'm really low on Ash vs. Evil Dead right now. I might not even wind up finishing the show. It's just like hanging over my head. I might watch it, I might not. It's just so, I don't know. Every once in a while I'll get in the mood to watch it, but because it's not bad, but it just isn't what I want from an Evil Dead property, which is very unfortunate because I love the movies. And even the end of season 1 was so good that I'm still holding out hope that the show reaches that level of greatness again. But I don't honestly think it will, because they already went back to the cabin in the woods. To be honest, don't think it's going to happen again. But that's beside the point. Okay. So that's what I've been watching. Let's get into the news. Other than one big piece of news, maybe 2 big pieces of news, it's a relatively slow week. So let's just get right into it. In a tragic accident on the set of the upcoming western Rust, Alec Baldwin discharged a prop gun that injured director Joel Souza and fatally injured cinematographer Helena Hutchins. The prop gun was declared cold, or not holding any live rounds, by numerous members of the crew, including assistant director Dave Halls and armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed. Halls was once reportedly fired from another production due to a minor injury incurred with another prop gun, and Gutierrez-Reed, daughter of industry vet Del Reed, has not given public comment since the event. Hutchins was an up-and-coming cinematographer, having previously worked on indie superhero film Arch Enemy. She was 42. As for the remainder of the production of Rust, it is completely halted as the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office obtained warrants to investigate the site, interview those who were there on the day, and obtain evidence, including cameras and props. Upon completion of investigations, the production will most likely resume. In the aftermath of this accident, there are now conversations being had about the strictness of gun safety of gun safety on movie sets, including Senator David Cortese introducing legislation that would ban live ammunition and firearms capable of firing live ammunition from movie sets and theatrical productions, a conversation that potentially should have been had before the death of a crew member. Nonetheless, this film will almost definitely be finished and released, as an injury or even death during production of a film or TV show is sadly not that uncommon. Injured director Joel Souza, out of the hospital but still recovering, told NBC News, "I'm gutted by the loss of my friend and colleague Helena. She was kind, vibrant, incredibly talented, fought for every inch, and always pushed me to be better. My thoughts are with her family at this most difficult time." The IATSE also held a candlelight vigil for Hutchins on Sunday evening. Very sad news for everyone involved on the set, and especially the family of Helena Hutchins. But the sad reality of making movies is that not a lot, I won't say that, because hundreds of productions are completed without any issue, but there are a number of productions that will go in and out every year that will have injuries, serious injuries, or death involved, which is completely preventable from my eyes. I feel like this industry has been in place for so long. It's not a new industry. It is over 100 years old. Thomas Edison started the first film studio in, I don't know, 1908 or whatever it was. The industry is over 100 years old. And I think that there should have been a push to do better a long time ago. And I don't know why people dying on set is something that can happen easily. It's way over my head. Why? A lot of times I'll try and justify the actions of, certain people in the industry because we don't know what's going on. We don't know what it's like to be famous, right? How difficult that might be. Sometimes you might go off the edge at the paparazzi one time. But I don't understand why someone didn't take the necessary precautions to make sure that this gun was not actually loaded. And I was reading an interview with an actual armorer gun expert, and they were saying that certain precautions should have been taken that were obviously not. An actor should not be pointing the camera at it. An actor should not be pointing the gun at a camera because that injures everyone, or that puts everyone at danger that's behind the camera, regardless of if it's a blank or not. No one should be doing that. And even if they are doing that, this expert had said that then, for the sake of the shot, if it needs to be done, then everyone behind the camera should be evacuated if that is really what's necessary for the shot. And that wasn't there. That wasn't in place. This gun was discharged. It was declared cold by two people. Declared cold. And Helena Hutchins was shot. And then that bullet went and also injured another man, the director. Another person, I should say. It's incredibly tragic, and I don't know what more there is to say other than any news article that you see that is putting Alec Baldwin's name in the headline or blaming him in any way for this incident is completely ignorant on the situation, and all they're doing is looking for clicks, and that is incredibly poor journalism. Alec Baldwin is an actor. He is told to do what he needs to do, and it's not his job to check the gun or, he's an actor. Why is there armorer declaring the gun cold when it's clearly not? Why is Dave Hall's assistant director also declaring the gun cold? He doesn't know shit about guns. He's an assistant director. And it came out, I think today or yesterday, that he was fired from another production because of another injury with another prop gun. He was kicked off of production. And I think it was the director of that production came out anonymously and said that. Which might be poor journalism, because you should really have multiple sources. But either way, so someone might just be, calling bullshit. But I think I read that on Deadline or multiple sources. But it's just, there isn't really anything more for me to say other than that. A lot of times I'll write these news stories and have something offhand that I want to say about, the production, if I'm looking forward to it, whatever. I didn't really care about Rust before this. I still kind of don't really care about the movie. I'm interested to see what it looks like when it's done. It probably will be finished. There were other movies in which people died on set. Notably, off the top of my head, I know Twilight Zone, the movie from the 80s, someone died from a helicopter accident. A lot of people actually died in the 80s due to helicopter accidents, which is such an absolute preventable shame. So there really is not much more that I want to say other than news articles should be leaving Alec Baldwin alone. He had no... It's not like he went off hinge and took a gun and and started blazing. He's cooperating with the police, and the father of Helena Hutchins came out and said that he doesn't blame Alec Baldwin for this, which is noble, which is a noble thing to say. And Alec Baldwin's family is defending him, a family who notably he has had a very public confrontations with, leaving angry voicemail messages to his daughter and such. But even his ex-wife and his birth daughter are coming to defend him. So that should tell you something. So leave him alone. And to be honest, leave alone the news stories that are publishing shit about him. Don't even give them oxygen. It's not worth it. Sorry for me giving them oxygen. That's all I really wanted to say about that. It's a huge... this has rocked Hollywood this week, and as it should. It's horrible. This could really... The horrible thing is that this could have really happened on any film set, and it is a shame that it had to happen at all. I think that there should be way more conversations about the safety on film set, to be honest. A lot of stunt people have a notoriously difficult job, and I can't say much more other than it's just such a shame. So at the risk of repeating myself over and over again, let's just move on. Number 2. The long-rumored and much anticipated film adaptation of the popular video game franchise Uncharted released its first trailer this week. The trailer shares some key story elements along with some set pieces from the games that fans of the series will most likely recognize. Uncharted is known for its fast-talking, comical protagonist Nathan Drake, portrayed here by Tom Holland. Mark Wahlberg also stars as the mentor friend of Drake, Victor Sullivan. In the source material, Sullivan is an older, cigar-smoking gentleman that follows Drake through thick and thin amongst their adventures together. The film also stars Sophia Ali as Chloe Fraser and Antonio Banderas as an unnamed character, most likely a villain. The film is directed by Ruben Fleischer of Zombieland fame, also known for 30 Minutes or Less, Gangster Squad, and both recent Venom films. Uncharted is written by Art Markham and Matt Holloway, known for working together on Iron Man, and Rafe Judkins joins them as well. Uncharted was a PlayStation-exclusive video game franchise with games in 2007, 2009, 2011, 2016, and 2017, all of which are well-received both critically and commercially, with Uncharted 2 Among Thieves being known as one of the best games of all time. Uncharted, the movie, is set to release on February 18th, 2022. So I did watch this trailer this week, and I want to give you my updated thoughts about it, so I'm going to actually pause this and watch it again, and then I'll get right back to you. And I'm back. So the thing that stands out to me, first and foremost, is that... So let me just say that I played all the Uncharted games. I'm a big fan of the series. When I got my PlayStation 3, I bought it with my own money, and Uncharted was one of the first games I got. And I just stuck with the series the whole way through. I seriously love it. I love all the characters. It's really, really big fan of the series. So the first thing that I should say that sticks out to me about the trailer is that the lack of recognizable Uncharted music. Uncharted is very few things. And I'm not one of these... there are very few things that mean Uncharted through and through. And I'm not one of these people that's going to say that video game adaptations just shouldn't even happen. You know, everyone's going to complain about them. Why even make them in the first place? I'm not that type of person at all. Some of the best movies that we've ever had, period, are adaptations of other media. And I think that it's only time before a good video game movie is released. You just need to have the right people behind it. I don't know if Uncharted is going to be that movie. It might still be out there, the movie that changes, people's perception of video game movies. But in regard to this specific example, there are a few things that I think you need in order for the property to be recognized as Uncharted. I think you need good music. I think you need a lot of humor. And I think you need heart. And I think those three things are really what make up Uncharted. And maybe if you wanted to add a fourth one, you could add in pulpy action. But I'm seeing a lack of recognizable Uncharted music, and I'm going to want, and even the song that they use, the licensed song that they used, whatever was what was that, I don't even know. It just sounded so strange and out of place for Uncharted. It just felt like a regular action movie that just had Tom Holland in it. I don't like it. Yeah. So recognizable music, that's what I'm going to need to see in the movie in order to feel like Uncharted. And what else did I say? Humor? Yeah, there was definitely some humor in there. The best Uncharted humor that was in that trailer that I saw was that Scottish interaction with that guy saying you're going to have a Scottish welcome or whatever. And, Tom Holland as Nathan Drake just looks at him and is just, what? That is straight Uncharted. That's great. And Nathan Fillion, man, I wish that Nathan Fillion was Nathan Drake. That would have been a great. I mean, there's a short film about it, and he helped fund it. Go watch the Uncharted short film on YouTube starring Nathan Fillion. It's pretty poorly written, but Nathan Fillion does a great job. He is a perfect Nathan Drake. Beside the point, though. So, what was I saying? Oh, what's his name? Nolan North. Yeah, that's right. All these N names. So Nolan North is the one that plays Nathan Drake in the video games, and he plays him with a very dry sense of humor. And you see that poke through in the trailer just a little tiny bit with Tom Holland. But it's hard. It's really hard to see the characters that we've known, or at least that I've known for years, portrayed by different people. It's just odd. It's very off-putting, especially when Mark Wahlberg would be a better Nathan Drake than Tom Holland would. But for some reason, they put Mark Wahlberg as Sully, who doesn't look or act like Sully at all. I think that's a total miscast. But, we'll see. From the trailer at least, I think that's a total miscast. I think that, what's her name? Sophia Ali as Chloe Fraser. Incredible casting choice. Great. She looks like Chloe. She acts like Chloe. She talks like Chloe from the very little that we've seen. She looks perfect for the part. Sounds perfect. Great casting choice there. I find it interesting that there's a lot of talk about Nathan Drake's brother, Sam Drake, who wasn't introduced until the fourth game. I'm not going to spoil the games in case anyone wants to play them, and hasn't yet. But Sam Drake is notably gone from the first 3 Uncharted games. So it's really interesting that is going to be a plot point. So it seems like what the movie is going to do is just directly contradict the games, which is not an issue at all. It's just something to point out. All right, what else do I want to talk about here? Pulp Action, yeah, looks good. Not much else to say there. So I want to talk about the airplane scene from the game from Uncharted 3. I have no problem that it's in here and it's like kind of out of place than where it happens in the game. They can make their own story. It's fine. It's a set piece that feels like Uncharted. I just hope that that's not the biggest set piece in the movie and that there is more to come that feels like Uncharted. Even in Uncharted 3, we had multiple big set piece things other than just that airplane sequence. For instance, the fire burning down the building in the beginning in like chapter 5 or whatever it is in the very beginning of the game. So I just hope that is not the only big set piece because that would be a shame to just blow it right in the trailer. It would have been cool if they showed a different set piece and then we saw that airplane sequence in the movie without knowing it was there, because then we would have the context for why it's necessary. Now, just seeing it in the trailer, we don't have that context, and we're like, oh, why is that? Why does that really have to be there? But it could be it could certainly be necessary. But we just don't know. I think that was the only thing. Oh yeah. Okay, so the game takes place, the movie takes place before the games. That's why Tom Holland is here as a younger Nathan Drake. Fine. the the movie needs to have heart, because every Uncharted has a lot of heart to it. Even though it's pulpy and it's actiony and it feels like it's straight out of a comic book, it feels like it's Indiana Jones. You need heart there. And Elena Fisher, the character, brought a lot of heart. She was a grounded character. And she was probably the best character in the game too. She was so well rounded and so complex as a character. And she was excellently portrayed too. And without having that character there, that is a huge letdown, to be honest. I hope there's another character there. Maybe they'll give some depth to Drake and Sully's interactions that provide that heart. Maybe it would be like a buddy cop adventure, movie, something like that. But that's what stood out to me. Yeah, I think that's it. Again, February 18th, 2022, not too far away. I would like to see that in theaters. Uncharted is a property, I know, but we'll see how the reviews come out. If they are bad, I won't go and see it. But if they're mediocre to good, I probably will wind up going see it. February, nothing really to do in February. So, all right, let's move on. Number 3, Netflix revealed the first trailer for the upcoming Red Notice, an action heist movie starring Ryan Reynolds, Dwayne Johnson, and Gal Gadot. The film is written and directed by Rawson Marshall Thurber, known for writing and directing Dodgeball and directing We're the Millers. The film is set to come to Netflix almost immediately on November 12th, 2021. Haven't seen this trailer yet, gonna pause it and give you my thoughts. Okay, I'm back. Okay, yeah, the funny thing is that if I didn't know what this movie was and you took the music out, you took the score out of that trailer, I would have thought that could have been Uncharted. Seriously, it plays out exactly like one of the games. So that, makes me look forward to it. It feels exactly like what Uncharted should feel like. And I'm probably only thinking that because we were just talking about Uncharted. But yeah, no, good trailer. I don't think it showed too much of the movie. It seems like there's going to be a lot of comedy there. Ryan Reynolds and Dwayne Johnson are great for comedy. Rawson Marshall Thurber looks like he's doing something similar to what Adam McKay did with Anchorman and then The Big Short, which it feels like he's doing something a little bit bigger than what he did with Dodgeball or We're the Millers. He seems like he cut his teeth on those kind of comedies, but it seems like he's doing something good here. It seems like he, knows what he wants to do. Seems really stylized. Ryan Reynolds' humor can kind of get old for me pretty quickly, so we'll see where this goes. Looking forward to it. Looks pretty good. It's pretty interesting that Ryan Reynolds just said like the other week that he was going to take a break from movies for like a year or two or whatever he said. Temporary retirement, as they say. But he and now we're just seeing why, right? Because he did Free Guy, which just came out. He's doing this, which is about to come out. And then he just wrapped on that musical movie that's going to come out next year. And he probably has been doing some other stuff in between that, too. I mean, he works a lot. So yeah, it's interesting to see. I'm looking forward to it. To be honest, it looks really good. I hope it turns out to be good because it looks great. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. Number 4. Netflix revealed the first trailer for its upcoming adaptation of Sally Wainwright's 2009 miniseries, Unforgiven. The film version stars Sandra Bullock and is about a woman that is recently released from prison. Directed by Nora Fingscheit and written by Peter Craig, Hilary Stites, and Courtney Miles. John Bernthal also stars. The film is set to release in select theaters on November 24th and on Netflix on December 10th, 2021. Again, same deal. Gonna pause it, give you my thoughts. So I was confused, so I looked it up real quick. So the TV show in which this is based off, the miniseries, is called Unforgiven, but this movie is called The Unforgivable. So trailer thoughts. It is really drama. It's a drama. I mean, it's a straight drama. The thing that really pulled me out of the trailer and made me pretty mad, and I can't believe that this got past everyone at Netflix, is that they reveal what her crime was in the trailer. It seems like that was supposed to be some sort of, even the write-up in the YouTube description says, released from prison after serving a sentence for a violent crime, Ruth Slater, blah, 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 blah. A violent crime, like it seems like that was supposed to be a mystery, and then for like 2 minutes of the trailer, that was the mystery. They showed like a flashback from it, and then all of a sudden it just said what the crime was. I'm not going to say it because if you care, you shouldn't watch it. But I don't know how pivotal that is going to be to the plot. But it just totally pulled me out. They should have just said it right at the beginning of the trailer, because then you know. Because if you find out 2 minutes into the trailer, it makes it seem like you weren't supposed to know. And it was like really offhand too. It wasn't like, it's just like you'll always be blank. And that's like it wasn't like some big sort of emotional reveal. Like that, to be honest, probably what it seems like this movie is trying to do, that's kind of ruined it for me. So now I'm going to go into the movie with that mindset of knowing what the crime is. So when that emotional reveal comes, because I know it won't feel as big and it won't feel as warranted, which is such a shame. Trailers are supposed to get you excited for the movie, not reveal every plot point in the movie. I wanted to actually say that about Red Notice. Of those 3 trailers I just watched, Red Notice was perfect. Uncharted showed too much, and this movie, The Unforgivable, also kind of showed a little too much. It said too much. It gave me too much of the plot. And it's really a shame. I don't really like watching trailers, but I will for the purpose of this show. Unless it's like a movie that I really care about. Like if Last Night in Soho released another trailer, I wouldn't watch it. But yeah, that's beside the point. We'll get to that movie in a sec. Okay, let's move on. Last thing here. Last trailer too of the day. Number 5. Upcoming Michael Bay directed film Ambulance shared its first trailer this week via Universal Pictures' official YouTube page. The film stars Jake Gyllenhaal and Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, hot off of Trial of the Chicago 7. The film is set to be released February 18th, 2022, which is actually the same date as Uncharted. Yeah. Okay, so I will pause, watch a trailer, and BRB. It's so funny that I was just talking about a trailer showing too much. This trailer showed way too much. It practically gave away the whole movie, which is a shame because it looked really good for like the first half. To be honest, I would actually watch, if you're interested in this, watch the first minute or so of the trailer and then stop watching. It's because it's a really good advertisement, and then it just shows way too much of the movie, which is a shame because it sounded really good. Like a buddy cop heist movie, who are the protagonists, who are the antagonists, kind of gray area kind of movie. I'm interested to see what Michael Bay can do outside of Transformers, because it's been a while for him, and some of the movies that he did, Armageddon, I think that was in 99, and Pearl Harbor, were much better than anything that Transformers put out since. And it's just a shame that he got wrapped up in that whole series. He probably had a contract to fill out, but I'm excited to see what he can do post Transformers, because now he can actually put some effort into something that he potentially has some sort of emotional connection to. So that's what I'm excited in that sense. I like Jake Gyllenhaal. He doesn't choose his projects very lightly. He usually chooses things that he can show his range. He can flex a little bit that he's a good actor. He's probably one of the best actors working today, to be honest. And yeah, I thought Abdul Mateen was great in Chicago 7. So looking forward to that. Probably won't go see it in theaters, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm interested. Very interested. Okay, let's move on. This is the last news story. Number 6, Amazon announced the new titles that are coming to Prime this month, which include, but are not limited to, 50/50, Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, Born on the 4th of July, Castaway, Children of Men, Crazy Stupid Love, Dan in Real Life, Dead Poet Society, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Romeo and Juliet, I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry, In Time, It's Complicated, Jingle All the Way, 1 and 2, Kung Pao, Enter the Fist, Meet Dave, Mrs. Doubtfire, Predator 2, Rushmore, The Day the Earth Stood Still, 2008 version, The Nutty Professor 1 and 2, Undercover Brother, Vantage Point, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Wild Dogs, Mayor Pete, and The Electrical Life of Louis Wayne. To see the full list of upcoming movies and series, I got this from Deadline, but you can probably go to press.amazon.com and find the full list there. So yeah, some great movies there. Again, you should use your Prime subscription if you have it. There are incredible movies that are there. I mean, Alien, 50-50. What else is here? Vantage Point's good. Who Framed Roger Rabbit, great. And then the 2 original movies that are at the end, Mayor Pete, which is a documentary about Pete Buttigieg, if you're interested, and The Electrical Life of Lois Wayne also look pretty interesting. So, if you have your subscription for Amazon Prime, you should use it because that content is incredibly high quality. All right, and here's the wrap up. Ryan Gosling is reportedly in talks to join Margot Robbie in the Barbie movie, playing Ken. Hong Kong picks Zero to Hero as its Oscar submission. Iran selects A Hero as its Oscar submission. Emily Blunt joins Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. Kit Clark joins the cast of Lost and Found in Paris, an autobiographical film about writer-director Rupert Everett. John Malkovich and Kristen Scott Thomas also star. The Last Kingdom feature film is in the works on Netflix following the show's final season. Prayers for the Stolen is Mexico's Oscar submission and will become available on Netflix on November 17th. John Cena is in negotiations to star in comedy Freelance. Director Pierre Morel, known for Taken, will direct. That was unfinished by me. Lee, an upcoming Lee Miller biopic, found its newest cast members with Marion Cotillard, Jude Law, Andrea Riseborough, and Josh O'Connor as they join Kate Winslet. Maribel Verdú and Sophie Okonedo join Ewan McGregor and Ethan Hawke in Apple TV Plus original Raymond and Ray. Vertical Entertainment requires rights to The Last Survivor, starring Alicia Silverstone. Sweden picks soccer drama Tiger for its Oscar submission. Gravitas Ventures acquires the rights to The King's Daughter, starring Pierce Brosnan, with narration by Julie Andrews. Denmark selects animated documentary Flea as its Oscar submission. Italy selects Paolo Sorrentino's Hand of God as its Oscar submission, which might be on Netflix right now. I kind of forget, to be honest, but upcoming Batgirl movie selects Brendan Fraser as the villain, The Firefly. Russia selects Unclenching the Fist for its Oscar submission. John James is set to play Joe Biden in the upcoming biopic about Hunter Biden, who's played by Lawrence Fox, titled My Son Hunter. The Six, executive produced by James Cameron, will get a UK theatrical run starting November 16th. Norway selects The Worst Person in the World for its Oscar submission. Flint, Who Can You Trust, documentary narrated by Alec Baldwin, has its release date postponed indefinitely, for obvious reasons. Zoe Lister-Jones joins Zach Braff-directed A Good Person, which also stars Florence Pugh. Sounds like the most Zach Braff thing I've ever heard, to be honest. A Good Person. Joe Tippett joins Netflix's Mr. Harrigan's Phone, based on the Stephen King short story. Kevin Dillon and Sam Asghari to co-star alongside Mel Gibson in thriller Hot Seat. Spencer Squire's directorial debut Abandon gets its cast with Emma Roberts, John Gallagher, and Michael Shannon. Wolfman, starring Ryan Gosling, finds its director Derek Cianfrance, now known for directing The Place Beyond the Pines, I Know This Much to Be True, and wrote Sound of Metal. Yeah, so that's the wrap up. Something I did a little differently this week was any news story. I used to do the wrap up where I would just put everything in there. Any news story that I didn't write the story for, or didn't fit in the non-essential stories up at the top, I would put there. Literally everything. So what I did there was only put in stories of people that I knew, or stories that looked or sounded interesting. Which narrowed down the list a little bit, but there's still a lot that I find interesting. A lot to be excited about in terms of movies. I love movies. That's why the list is so long. That's why I'm doing this podcast. So there you go. My gift to you. Okay, so what is new this weekend? Let's find out. as always, is via IMDb, their upcoming What's New in Theaters section. Antlers. And the description is, in an isolated Oregon town, a middle school teacher and her sheriff brother become embroiled with her enigmatic student, whose dark secrets lead to terrifying encounters with a legendary ancestral creature who came before them. Directed by Scott Cooper, stars Kerry Russell, Jesse Plemons, Jeremy T. Thomas, and Graham Greene. I'm pretty sure that is the Guillermo del Toro produced movie. I watched the trailer for it. Looks pretty good, looks interesting, looks scary. Not really of interest to me this week, but potentially in the future I would absolutely watch it. Last Night in Soho. An aspiring fashion designer is mysteriously able to enter the 1960s where she encounters a dazzling wannabe singer, but the glamour is not all that it appears to be, and the dreams of the past start to crack and splinter into something darker. Directed by Edgar Wright, starring Thomasin McKenzie, Anya Taylor-Joy, Matt Smith, and Diana Rigg. Yeah, that's the movie I want to see this week. That's the number one movie. I can't wait. My Hero Academia. World Heroes Mission. That's it. My Hero Academia, World Heroes Mission. When a cult of terrorists ruins a city by releasing a toxin that causes people's abilities to spiral out of control, Japan's greatest heroes spread around the world in an attempt to track down the mastermind and put him to justice. Directed by Kenji Nagasaki, starring Robbie Daymond, Tetsu Inada, Yuki Kaji, Ryan Colt Levy. Interesting. The Souvenir, Part 2. In the aftermath of her tumultuous relationship, Julie begins to untangle her fraught love for him, but in making her graduation film, sorting fact from his elaborately constructed fiction. Directed by Joanna Hogg, starring Tilda Swinton, Honor Swinton Byrne, James Spencer Ashworth, and Alice McMillan. Okay. A Mouthful of Air. Julie Davis writes... there are two characters named Julie this week. The Souvenir also main character named Julie. A Mouthful of Air. Julie Davis writes best-selling children's books about unlocking your fears, but has yet to unlock her own. When her daughter is born, that trauma is brought to the fore, and with it, a crushing battle to survive. Directed by Amy Kopelman, starring Amanda Seyfried, Britt Robertson, Jennifer Carpenter, Finn Whitrock. Okay, 13 minutes. 4 families in a Heartland town are tested in a single day when a tornado hits, forcing paths to cross and redefining the meaning of survival. That grammar is incorrect. Forcing paths. Maybe it's not. It just read horribly. Directed by Lindsay Gosling, starring Thora Birch, Sophia Vessa. I don't really know anyone in that, but yeah, there it is if you want it. And lastly, Planet Dune. A crew on a mission to rescue a marooned base on a desert planet turns deadly when the crew finds themselves hunted and attacked by the planet's apex predators, giant sandworms. Directed by Glenn Campbell and Tammy Klein, starring Sean Young, Emma Killian, Tammy Klein, and Sharon Desiree. Clearly a ripoff of Dune. Find it really funny that they should have just released it last weekend if the movie was ready. That would have been awesome. They're probably banking on people wanting to see Dune and then accidentally going to see Planet Dune instead and being like, what the fuck is this? This is horrible. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Obviously, Antlers looks pretty cool, but Last Night in Soho is the one for me. Edgar Wright is one of my favorite directors of all time. I think he's incredibly visual. I think everything he does has such a high quality to it. I can't wait to see it. I cannot wait to see it. So I have a pretty busy weekend this weekend. Hopefully I'll have time to watch it. If not, I will find the time. Hopefully I would really, really like to see it. I also work a day job, so over 40 hours a week. So I'm going to watch it sooner or later, one way or another, whether it be this weekend or next weekend, I'm going to watch it. Yeah. So that is all that I have for you this week. Thank you for tuning in. If you did, this will go live tomorrow, which is Wednesday, as these shows always do. Again, my name is Dylan Paulson, and this was What Gets Captured on Film. Thank you very much for joining. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you next time. Goodbye.